Hi everyone, this is Dr. Jimenez and welcome to the Project 2 feedback presentation. What I like to do when possible, especially for written assignments, I like to at least share some feedback with the class in terms of any general themes that I'm noticing, both the good and the areas of opportunities. So what you're going to see here today is just a brief summary of themes that emerged from my reviewing all of your papers. And with that, there we go. I'm used to using PowerPoint. I'm trying to be more expanded in my horizons and use Google Slides and other tools. So bear with me as I figure some of this stuff out. But in the meantime, again, I do want to reiterate what you're going to see here are generalized themes. So basically, I went through all the projects for Project 2. I reviewed them. I decided, based on what I'm reading, these are some of the themes, things I just want to highlight. So not everything's going to apply to some of you. And for some of you, you may say, well, that doesn't really apply to me. And that's okay. These are just general themes, watch outs, things to consider. And more importantly, I'll give some suggestions and best practices to think about, not only for this class, but beyond when you get ready to go on to your other classes next semester, or if you decide in the future to go back for your doctorate or another type of degree. These are things that might be helpful to you in the long run either way. So let me talk about what I call the good. The good is, in this case, those things that I observed across the board that I was very pleased with, things that I feel should be both celebrated and acknowledged. And in this case, these were the four key themes that I did observe across the board. When it came to APA citations and formatting, there were many of you that I could tell have been doing this at least for you've done this at least in one other class at minimum, if not more. Many of you did a really good job in terms of your citations, your formatting, and even for those of you who are doing this for the first time, many of you made the attempt, which by the way, I'm very pleased to see that you made the attempt. You are making the effort. There may have been some mistakes here and there, but the fact that you're doing it, you're trying to go through the process and get familiar with APA, this is a good thing. And you should all be commended for it. So continue the good work. Continue to review APA. And let me just be very honest here, and I've said this a couple times in the past, but I'm going to say it again. When it comes to APA, please keep in mind that, there are many, many rules that are applicable in the 6th edition. And there are times even I have to go back and take a look at some of the rules and guidelines. So all I will say is, if you feel like you don't know everything there is to know about APA, that's okay. Guess what? Think of this as a practice run, so by the time you get to your thesis, you at least will have this down and you can focus more on the research and on your writing, which brings us to points 2 and 3. I was very pleased that in general, pretty much all of you had what I call clarity of writing. Your thoughts were very clear. There was a clarity of thought. I read what your sentence was and I clearly understood. There was no questions or ambiguity in general. So continue the good work in terms of your clarity of writing, continue to be succinct, and continue to make sure that you're getting your thoughts across on paper because you're doing it already. So keep up the good work there as well. The other piece, which I'm very pleased to see, is that you all addressed the key points of the rubric. In general, you all addressed the key points of the rubric. It shows me that you're taking the extra effort to look at the rubric. You're looking at the materials that I'm providing for the project, and this is Project 2. And that, again, just shows your level of engagement. So keep up the good work there as well. And finally, last but not least, and this can be hard sometimes, because sometimes you just want to keep writing and you have so many thoughts going through your head. Sometimes it can be very easy to actually get off topic. And in general, I would say you all stayed on topic. which is all great news. So again, this was the good. This is what I saw across the board, and I was very pleased with not only with what you all wrote, but what you did in terms of your presentation overall. So again, nice job overall, folks. The two areas of improvement, which should not be a surprise to anyone at this point, it was really around two things: the APA citation rules and formatting, as well as general citation rules around when to cite and when not to cite. Now, here's the difference. When it comes to APA citations and formatting, again, it's just becoming familiar with the rules and guidelines. Whether you're citing a book, a journal article, a website, you know, just getting familiar with the formatting, getting familiar of when you use ampersands, when you don't use ampersands, what happens if you have more than 3 authors, how do you cite the first time, the second time, third time, etc. These are all rules that you eventually will pick up as you continue to go through your APA citations. And this is part of the reason why I also encourage that you use APA citations in your discussion board posts, because it gives you good practice over time. So getting familiar with the rules, again, this is just going to happen over time. So keep practicing, keep doing what you're doing, and you'll get the APA citation formatting guidelines. The one thing I want to highlight, though, in bullet point number 2 is what I call citation rules, specifically about when to cite and when not to cite. Now, this is something that may seem very obvious on the surface. And there might be a couple of occasions where it may not be so obvious. So, for example, when to cite. So here's the thing. If you're pulling a direct quote, you should absolutely cite your sources, right? That makes a lot of sense. You've heard me say that in my other videos. Again, if you are putting a direct quote, there must be a citation. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. However, if you paraphrase an idea, in other words, if I take an idea from another author and I paraphrase it, I share it with you, it deserves a citation because I want to give credit to that author, to that writer. I want to make sure that they are getting credit for their idea. Now, the exception to that rule, which is in point B, is when not to cite. Now, this can be a little, I would say, I know there's probably some points of contention here, but when it comes to what's considered general knowledge, for example, if I said to you that in New Jersey, in New Jersey, our school system from K through 12 typically runs from September through June, with some summer programs that run in July and August. Now, that's common knowledge, right? That's general knowledge that everyone knows. Do I need to cite it? No, unless I'm stating something that may seem like general knowledge, but it may not be. For example, if I start talking about Vygotsky, or if I start talking about Clark and Mayer, or if I start saying, hey, making comments like students, are not motivated to learn in online environments. Okay, is that an opinion or is that a fact? And you have to be careful about putting your opinion as a fact, because if you are going to share an opinion, you either need to state that it's an opinion or you need to find a fact to support it if you really mean for it to be a fact. My point is, you have to be mindful of the fact that not necessarily everything is general knowledge. And when you're writing an academic paper, you have to err on the side of caution that sometimes, there are a lot of things that may not be general knowledge. So sometimes it's just better to cite and err on the side of caution by citing. So this way, if you don't cite and you do use an idea from someone else, you're not hit with a plagiarism charge. Because again, you don't want to be looked at as someone who is plagiarizing other people's work. So when in doubt, cite. If it's general knowledge that everyone knows this, then It's okay not to cite, but again, when in doubt, always cite. So my recommendations for you, and I've just kind of alluded to them, is again, continue to practice your APA, continue to review the citation rules and guidelines. And when you're writing your paper, ask yourself the more important question: is this general knowledge? And if it's not, I need to cite it. And if you're not sure or something's not clear, cite it anyway. It's better to cite and oversight than it is to not cite and then get accused of plagiarism, which you don't want. But again, that's why we have our discussion boards. That's why even outside of this class, whenever you take any other courses in this program, you should always cite your sources and cite your discussion board posts so that you can use it as a means of getting practice. It'll help you in the long run. So again, by the time you get to your thesis, you'll be more than ready to go. So with that, thank you all for some great submissions. I'm very pleased. You should be in general, you should be very pleased with what you have submitted. Again, there are individual, I would say, issues that I have shared and reported back. And if you have any questions about any of these themes or guidelines, let me know. Thanks again, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day and weekend.